For the concerns of COPA, this is a video meant for general audiences. Yellow, YouTube, hitting you with that double upload. Yeah, I know, this doesn't happen, does it? So, here we are with part 2. This is literally right after part 1. And again, I'm sorry for it being such a mess, but I am trying my best. So, we left off with me toying around with the ideas of the god and Tristan, or the god playing around with Tristan, and how that could possibly relate into a character conflict. Or same with the Foundation, or you rolling with a god, broski. I think I'll leave that to gestate over the rest of the work, but I don't think I'll have anything come of it by the end. Other than moral ponderings and wonderings of what's going on, of course. But that does raise the question. So what's the real meat of the potatoes here? In case you can't tell, it's going to turn out really badly. So what's the real meat and potatoes here? I want to say it's the interviews. So, let's talk about the ending real quick, because as you can tell by that other video, if you paid attention, I wasn't really sure where to end it. With a question, with him going through his day, working. Or maybe I should do a time skip, which probably would not be the best idea. Those usually work out better for longer terms, such as skipping years or months. What? Of course, this is supposed to be a short story and flash fiction, according to most everyone on the wiki, so a time skip may work. Skipping to when the character can quietly lay in bed and cry themselves to sleep as they wonder, are they really happy with their life? That may just strike too close to home for some people and immediately get it downvoted to hell. But we'll see. It does raise the question, doesn't it? Who are you, Tristan? And what are you seeking to get out of your stay with the Foundation? Again, I've partially gone over that he enjoys psychology aspects, but there's all that paperwork and the fact that you can't leave without them wiping away your memories, taking away valuable bits of who you are and your friends and the relationships you've built, as well as vital or traumatizing experiences. Another author put it best: when you're doing a story about the Foundation, you don't want to kill off a character, but if they're in the D-class position, or any position for that matter, but usually the D-class, you don't want to amnesticize them. And the amnestic pills are a major crutch on the wiki. Not for everyone, but generally, especially when it comes to the SCP files themselves, actually, which is a interesting scenario. Of course, the SCP Foundation is loosely based off the idea of Men in Black and the shadowy government agency that shows up and steals whatever you found. They're the heart of what's hiding in Area 51, and of course the other military black sites around the world. So, they could potentially walk away from the Foundation and, have everything wiped and removed, which I think would be both scary for the average person, but at the same time, it's just bad character development. Sorry for the pause there. just thought of something someone said about all these conspiracies that go around, and they did have a valid and interesting point. Of course, this could be circumvented by putting the Foundation in a broken masquerade state where the world already knows about anomalies, and in which case the Foundation would be even more lax about hiring people. Ah, yes, I did cover it a bit in the last video, but I don't think I verbally stated. So, how did this person get into the Foundation? They don't seem like the type that would be employed by the Foundation. Well, simply put, they approached the Foundation first. Curiosity got the better of the cat. And you're probably wondering, that makes no sense. You see, I imagine that for those willing, there are several different ways the Foundation either approaches you, which I think is the headcanon for most people, or you approach the Foundation, which would probably also be a prevalent headcanon. I'm not really sure, I haven't asked around. But there's interesting pros and cons with each of those. The pro of you approaching the Foundation is that it's simply a narrative convenience for this. But the con of the other that I don't think someone thought about is the Foundation has to reveal themselves. And again, they have amnestic pills, it's no big problem, and they can always, speak around and try and be vague and get around the issue. But at a certain point, someone is too far in. And while it's easy to hand wave that as the Foundation having a control on them, some people are very slippery and are going to find a way around. Again, it isn't likely, but it is a possibility that I don't think people would often consider. So, how does this work out exactly? I'm going to leave it like this. Something happened at the university. Foundation showed up, and our boy Tristan, well, they took a peek too far, which I would imagine would get a Foundation handler to show up. And in case you're wondering, no, that is not a term actually coined by the wiki. But when I say handler, there are people who probably handle. Well, first off, the MTF would do a report and probably amnesticize them, but someone would definitely come and look into whoever saw it. It almost always happens. Check the majority of wiki logs. Whenever someone encounters an anomaly, there is always an interview with them, or they are detained, and a researcher or someone important comes to ask some questions. Now then, that could be an important employment opportunity for our boy Tristan here. After all, he is a psych major and he's qualified for a doctoral position. And not too many people, well, at least in my head canon, suppose it's all open to interpretation, but generally, well, not generally, there's no real precedent for this. But I imagine interviewers don't last too long in the Foundation, speaking in the early days of the wiki. 049 did eventually kill his interviewers. And 682 does not take kindly to anyone interviewing him. He will, of course, do it, but he's a hateful being. So I could easily see there being a high turnover rate for someone willing to fill in that role. Of course, there is the interesting counterpoint of why wouldn't the project head take that risk? I think that the people who do run tests and handle the SCP would probably most likely conduct some interviews, but That means that there's a psychological major on each and every team. Or, well, not each and every, but for the majority, but for basically every sentient SCP team, they would need one. And that's a lot of psychology. Professors, majors, psychiatrists. Sorry that I'm using them interchangeably. That's a lot of positions to fill. And the SCP Foundation's shadowy, and I imagine not too many people are eager to step into a box with God or the lizard from hell. So, could easily be cowardice or something like that. Or not, well, cowardice, but just rationality at its peak. A lot of the more popular figures on the wiki have become particularly unhinged or, well, eccentric, or have been horribly marred by their experiences. Very, very few, or well, not very few. Most of the SCP's major figures became laughable at some point, and recently writers have begun to tone them down and take them back to Earth, but they still remain eccentric. The best example for this would be Dr. Bright, obviously. Um, I agree that he's probably someone who does all sorts of crazy and funny stuff, and I think a lot of people, or at least the more elite of the site, rolls their eyes and really don't like Old Bright, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. This man can't die and he's depressed. And the whole thing is everybody's doing this fake deep stuff now. That's not what I think it is, but that's what the term I've seen coined for it. By the way, this is about to end, so let me see if I can finish this thought real quick. But most depressed people try to cheer other people up. So it makes sense. And also, if you can't die, you're going to eventually. You're going to do it all. That's the gist of it. You're going to do it all. You may as well enjoy the fact that no matter what you do, there's no real consequence, or no real big consequence to it. Well, that's my piece. There may be a part 3. We'll